that the lottery's coming. Could this council have legally said, hey, we're going to allow the lottery in town, but only at Food Line? Could we have done that?
No, because this is a civics lesson
Okay.
that we had to learn the hard way in Amelia County. Or Blanton v. Amelia County, when they sued us over biosolids and sludge spreading in the county. Our then attorneys, they're no longer Amelia County's attorneys, made a specific recommendation that biosolids be banned outright from the town using a zoning ordinance and prohibiting it from certain zoning districts. Okay? We were upheld at the circuit court
level
and lost at the state Supreme Court unanimously because this is a Dillon Rule state.
It violated the Right to Farm Act.
If it's specifically permitted, they actually have an agency at the Department of Health or a division at the Department of Health that does nothing but supervise this stuff. If it's specifically a permitted activity, as the lottery is, we're not there on these machines, but we're definitely there on the lottery, that the town cannot prohibit that which is expressly permitted by the state of Virginia because we're a Dillon Rule state.
Half our zoning is obsolete then.
I think I see Mr. Chris Page on the back row. I'm going to let a few more folks speak, and then we do have a big agenda, folks, but this has been a big issue. I want to, Mr. Chris Page, I do want to say one thing about Chris Page. This man right here, I called him on the day of Grand Illumination. He came up to Blackstone on a 90 minutes notice and provided great music and amplification for the Grand Illumination, and we will always thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, no problem. Do what I can. Bright Lights Entertainment did 340 shows last year. 330 of them had these machines in there, so I know a lot about them. I've even played them. Most of my locations have them. The difference between these particular games that are in the convenience store and the difference in the games at the casino are the two casinos, I call them, game rooms, are night and day. There are different types of games. These particular games, you have to press something to win. Those games over there, when I went and checked them out, they were very hard to understand. They weren't user-friendly. They were more like a slot machine with 72 reels on them, like a computer, and I really didn't know what was going on.
But they're both games of skill. Let's just leave it at that.
Games of skill,
right, okay.
correct.
Right.
The issue is that the Queen machines are popular because they're user-friendly. And you can go anywhere from Farmville, Amelia, Petersburg, even over by the Walmart distribution center, all over. I was in Richmond a few weeks ago, and we stayed up there in a hotel, and every restaurant we went to had them. You know, it's like those machines are very popular nationwide. I don't see them going anywhere. I know Diana had to fill out a lottery application, so I really don't see why the convenience stores are forced to take them out. All right, they are. You know, it's not opening up a pornography store. I mean, if you're opening up a casino, I can understand getting a special use permit because that's your business. That's what you're doing. That's your business. It's all gaming. The vape shop has like 3 vaping products. If anybody ever went in there to buy any vaping products, I bet they barely sell any at all. If you ever been in that back room,
But that's his prerogative.
right? That's his
right,
prerogative.
right.
It's not really a vape store. It's what it is. It's a gaming room. All gaming machines. So, but never once do I see a line of people hanging out a machine. I've seen machines full, like at the gas station, where everybody's in a seat. And the definition of loitering, if you're sitting there spending money and being a customer, that's not loitering. You're sitting down doing adult entertainment. But for things like Diana, we're already having adult entertainment in there. We're having DJs, we're having bands, we're having concerts.
It's not disrupting the landscape of Mitchell's restaurant. It's not disrupting North Main Street,
Right.
that area
And
of town.
and as you said, Players Vape is full of people. It's not hurting their business.
Right.
They might think of it as competition. If you're going to table it, I suggest you allow those businesses to have the machines back. It's my request.
All right. Well, table, just so we're clear, I want to make sure the word table has been used. If Mr. Miller, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you saying table means no active enforcement anywhere in town, that everybody can let her rip?
Until the state, because it's not
Is that-
illegal.
because that's what table, that's the spirit of what I heard you say. Don't do anything, let everybody be. The businesses are doing. Right. Right. And the spirit of that I don't have a problem with. I do have sympathy and great compassion for those who did go through the process
Well,
and invest. I do have, and we do have, we did have public hearings, just in fairness. It wasn't like it was a secret. I mean, we had very public discussions about the old medical center building. So, this council has a tough dilemma upon it.
That's not what I was saying.
I want to hear what you
What
meant.
I'm saying is, okay, we've already got them out. So until we find out what the General Assembly is going to do, because there's no need in putting them back in and causing these people problems when the rules come up. Then we got to go back and do the same thing over again. while we got it out there, until the General Assembly makes their move, then
Okay.
May I say something on that?
Yes.
The only issue with that
Hold on a
is,
second, I want to make sure we have order. Let's keep order, okay?
the issue I have with that is that we do have customers, and I'm just speaking for Blackstone now, I'm not talking about all the other events I do, that like to come in and put $20 a machine, play 40 cents a spin, and maybe win some money. Maybe $10 they won. Employees like to play it. The loss of business. The casinos can have all that business, because, I mean, obviously, if it gets out in 3 months, if they throw it out and make it illegal anyway, those 2 game rooms are gone too.
They're not going to do, I think what I'm reading the tea
They can do
leaves
business,
is
but nobody
attorney, I
else
think if the state does anything, it's going to be more favorable toward gaming machines everywhere, not restricting those businesses that already
Right,
lawfully
so-
operate.
Diana doesn't make a lot, but there are a lot of other places that do. I know one of my locations at Farmville make a lot of money on them. But the fact of the matter, loss of business, loss of customers. If they do go the bad route and make it illegal, it's easier to just take out.
Right.
I mean, let those people have their business for the next 3 months. That way, some people can't do business and other people can't.
I do want to make sure, and I do want to enter on the record, and the council has seen this letter, but we did receive a letter in late December from the owner of one of the establishments that did go through the process, basically telling council to please continue enforcing the law as council adopted. So we thank you, Mr. Page.
One more quick question.
Yes, yes.
Those machines have been in this town for at least 6 months, and maybe 7. We've had 1 criminal complaint about it.
No, I've heard none either.
No,
I think it's just a matter of what Mr. Nash said, is that the town goes to great lengths to have an inclusive public hearing process and adopt a zoning ordinance. And then when you find out there are things that don't meet the letter of that, you know, the question before this council is, are we going to, let everybody have a pass until the General Assembly is over? Or we're going to continue the current?
And as you think about that, I would just think about these places already have lottery permits, liquor licenses.
Understood.
One of the,
This is not a moral law this council's
one
passed
of
by
the
any means.
establishments wanted to come downtown. Philip had discussed it with him. But you have a rent of $500 as opposed to now they're paying a rent of $3,500. Because
there.
it's allowed out there
Right.
at the shopping center. So that's my concern, is the fairness. I could care less about the games personally.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a gambler, I'm tight as a tick, but it's the fairness issue that concerns me.
What about
Those-
limiting the number of machines in that particular?
well,
district?
let's,
to me,
I want to
it's
hear
not a
from,
number.
Madam Attorney wants to raise a point, and then council needs to make a decision.
Yes,
Yes,
and
ma-
these are more just points of clarification, hearing the different comments on wanting
Yes.
council to be clear that, number one, regarding the common loss attorney's opinions. And that is based on whether or not gaming at this point is legal or illegal, since, the General Assembly has not made a decision on it. So where one of the original jurisdictions in the city of Charlottesville, the Commonwealth's attorney said, hey, all of these games are just wholesale illegal, they're gambling, shut them all.
That was their opinion, right?
Yes, but the inquiry here is not whether or not it's legal per se, whether or not it's a criminal activity. What we are addressing here is whether or not it violates the zoning ordinance. So, just to make that clear. The second point I wanted to bring up in terms of talking about what do we do in the interim if council does decide to wait and see what the General Assembly is going to do. And I wanted to direct council to one of the sections in the zoning ordinance. And so bottom line is what we can do with the gaming machines in the interim is going to depend on what treatment we determine to give to the BZA appeals. Because what it says in the appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals is it's 18-4.4, stay of proceedings. And it says here that, the zoning administrator transmit the papers and an appeal shall stay all proceedings in furtherance of the action appealed, unless the zoning administrator certifies to the board that by reasons of fact stated in the certificate, a stay in his opinion would cause imminent peril to life or property. So, bottom line is, if we're going to table it, unless we have a decision otherwise with the people that appealed it, the Board of Zoning Appeals does stay any zoning actions.
They have final say. The BZA doesn't make a recommendation to council. BZA is basically the zoning gods. Planning commissions recommend to council. BZA, they're court appointed, what they say goes.
Yeah. So in other words, if you all were to vote to table it and then we reach a decision to table the BZA till the 90 days or whenever we wanted to consider it, our ordinance basically says that the gaming would have to proceed.
It's basically a policy decision. Does council want to continue firm on its zoning ordinance and potentially face a court challenge? Or does council want to say, hey, look, these things have proliferated, they've gotten popular. We're going to just let everything slide until the General Assembly adjourns in March.
If you're gonna do that, I feel like we need to have a public hearing from those that have spoke against all, whether they're in the zoning or not. We've had lots of constituents say they don't want them period in Blackstone.
Right.
It-
But they did not speak, here's the thing, they did not come to the public hearing in late 2018 and speak against them. We had a very
Yes, they have.
a few did, a few. But they mainly spoke against the ones in their neighborhood. Ms. Hoover spoke against gambling, I know that.
Ms. Russell,
And Ms. Russell.
there's several that I've been bending ears.
But there's not been a wave at town hall saying no gambling, no gambling.
So what you're saying is if we table this, then the machines have to come back.
My understanding is, and Philip, have the machines at this point been taken away or are they still
The
there?
only individual,
or-
I have not re-inspected because I was waiting for the night to pass, but the only individual that I spoke with in regards to what he's doing with the machines, he says, I'm taking them out, but he was one of the applicants for the Board of Zoning Appeals, so.
So some have been removed.
Not taking it out.
I know the Community Exxon took all theirs out.
Did they? They may have, but
They took all
I
theirs
haven't
out.
gone back and inspected, waiting for the night's,
So if we table, they would be allowed to bring those machines back in and plug them in and business as usual.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
But
What does council think about the point, what do you want to do about the people that came?
I think if
And
we're
got a
gonna do
permit.
it, we need to have another zoning ordinance. I think we need to advertise for another zoning ordinance. If we're gonna allow any of them to stay currently now at all.
Okay.
I think we need to advertise for 2 weeks. If you're gonna allow them throughout town, it needs to be advertised so that people can speak against it. Else, you don't allow them, except for in the special use.
I do believe by putting a deadline on it or a termination on it, I think it's gonna prevent other applications from coming through. I think there are additional facilities that wanna come into town who see this as a fertile breeding ground for these kinds of things, one of which has been turned down. I think they'll reapply very quickly.
So what's your basis here, Mr. Nation? Let's, a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance and let it go
If we're
townwide.
going to allow them to remain in place, we need to have another public hearing
All right.
to change our ordinance.
Okay.
We can't just, our zoning ordinance says that it's, whether it's legal or not, whatever it is. Our zoning ordinance says that it's only allowed with special use permit in the specialized business district,
correct.
period.
Right.
So currently, no, they're not allowed, whether that's the state or what, it's,
And we can't change that, right?
unless we have a public hearing.
Right, you can always
We can
amend the
have a
zone,
public
you can
hearing.
always change your zone ordinance, we gotta do it through
You
hearings.
can change
But
the,
does town council have the authority to change it?
Yes, that's the one thing we do have authority to do.
we can do.
Okay.
The planning commission, it would probably be a 6-week to 8-week process, but that's how you do it.
And the planning commission would have
Right.
to have, it would have to be a joint public hearing with the planning
Correct.
commission there.
We could do a joint hearing, this would definitely be one of those situations where a joint hearing might be ideal
like I
to
said, I
time.
again, don't care about the machines, I just want it to be fair across the board for
Yeah.
everybody.
No one on this council has ever made a morality statement about gambling. We're not into all that. It's just been basically, I've told you the history. I don't need to repeat that.
Now, the threshold was interesting too, that the other establishments maybe have a threshold of X amount of machines.
And maybe that's in the rezoning, we could do that. But
Right.
whether you, right now, whether you have 1 or 500, to me, it's the same.
The reason
our
it's
zone.
fertile, the reason these people come, the market knows where the money is. And if anyone looks at the lottery sales per capita of Southside Virginia, which is poor, you'd be surprised at the millions spent on the lottery. And now the state legislators get nervous because, the lottery isn't as fun as that game. Scratch and lose, scratch and lose. Oh, I'm playing. That's what's going on here, folks. It's all about the money. And I commend you folks who are fighting out there to keep your business and to stay in business because it's hard
It
out there.
brings people in there, and I understand that.
Yeah, I commend you that. And I also commend you folks who did it through the process. So, council, what's your decision? I need a motion.
But you did say that until the 3 months that they can proceed the way they have been.
Yes, pursuant to, basically when you file an appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals, it stays any zoning enforcement proceedings until that until a decision is made.
Well, then in that case, let's just wait to hear what the Board of Zoning says then.
No, but she says
I'm
stay. Make sure we understand the word stay. Stay means overrule, takes priority, correct?
Well, what stay means is basically that Philip couldn't go in and enforce it any further.
Okay.
So, in other words, it would still remain
So there-
running and,
Well, I think another issue we have is Ms. Mitchell went through great steps to make sure she was doing what was proper. And you contacted the Commonwealth Attorney 3 times, but the Commonwealth Attorney never thought that she's called it that many times to call
That would have
us
been.
to find out what's going on.
That would have been.
I mean, there's a serious breakdown in the community. When we authorized the building out there, I had no idea that the same type of machines were the ones coming
None of us
this
did.
way. I did not, because I'm not a vapor, so I don't go.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they've gone through that much of a problem to try to make sure they're doing it right, how you gonna just pull the rug out from under somebody, assuming that it's, gonna change in 3 months? So I make a motion that on the town attorney's not recommendation, but give us, that we allow them to proceed until we find out what happens in 3 months.
All right. Would it be proper to describe that as he is moving to relax the current zoning ordinance, and then meanwhile advertise for a new zoning ordinance to allow them townwide and see what the people say?
But what it sounds like Tessie just said, I think that was misconstrued. There's a stay. So currently, what we voted 7-0, they're not allowed. They're supposed to be removed. So there's a stay on that rule, correct? It can't be any harsher, obviously.
no, what I am saying is there's a stay of further proceedings by Philip to get these machines out. So in other words, basically the Board of Zoning Appeals, when they receive the appeal, the machine's operations can continue until the Board of Zoning Appeals makes that decision, or unless, which there's no grounds for this here, unless the zoning administrator certified to the board that there was an imminent peril to life and property.
Well, I mean-
And then in that case, he could go ahead and get a restraining order.
If we're going to go with this motion, then there's no need in us even advertising for public hearing. We're wasting even more money, to be honest.
All right. So
I mean, if you're gonna do that, then we might as well just wait for the Board of Zoning Appeals who tells us what to do, instead of having a special.
go ahead, Mr. Colonel Tom.
The question is the ones who already took the things out of their establishments because Philip asked them to, or told them they had to, we're not
It's
saying that
it's
they
not
can put them
Philip,
back.
It was us, the 7 of us.
Because, correct.
Philip was just
Yes,
instructed
yes,
by us.
Correct. So, if that's already happened, can they now then come back and put them back in? Is that what we're saying?
What we're saying is Philip would
Because
not.
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
What I'm saying is Philip couldn't go back there and say, oh, your machines are running, take them out, or I'm gonna take you to court. So in theory, yes, they could.
Wouldn't this council first, let me make sure, this council's last vote on this was 7-0 to enforce the ordinance. We would need a motion to rescind that order, instructions given to you, to hold off on enforcing it.
That's my point. I think it's more of a town council matter at this point, and not so much as zoning enforcement. You guys acted one time, I think you need to react to that previous vote and overturn that or stay it or
Yeah.
test to give you the
Because
proper
the
term.
last motion of record is that the town will enforce the zoning ordinance, and that was 7-0 in December.
Because
I
that
said-
was a fair
Right.
assumption on this. So my concern would be, if we're going to change something, how do we compensate those that have gotten the?
Well, that would be a
correct
question for
term.
the council. That is definitely, I see one hand of someone who's not spoken. Yes, sir.
So excuse my ignorance, so,
That's Alan Queen, I'm sorry.
so it says specifically in the town general business zoning ordinance that video games where you can make money is not allowed. Is that?
Now, what it says, the way zoning reads, is a zoning ordinance describes districts and says what is allowed. So if something is not listed, it doesn't mean, oh, good, I'm not banned. It means you're not allowed. That's the way the zoning reads. So if if you want to open up a car lot at a certain lot and it doesn't say in your zone that you can run a car lot, you got to come to this council and get permission to run a car lot. To amend the zone ordinance to allow car lot in whatever zone you're in. Am I right, Mr. Town Manager?
That is correct.
Hold on, Mr. Page. I'm gonna get back. Go ahead, Mr. Queen.
Oh, so, like, in their case though, they're not running a gaming business.
They're a restaurant.
It's a restaurant.
Right.
So putting a video game in a corner somewhere where you can play it and maybe win some money, I don't see how that is even relative.
You're right until the council in August 2018 had a hearing and defined what a gaming establishment was. That's where the trouble, that's why we're here tonight having this discussion.
And I mean, until then, I personally think, Board of Zoning Appeals, I personally think, and obviously there's some different opinions, that we need to stay the course. We voted 7-0, and until the Board of Zoning Appeals acts, there's nothing for us to do. I mean, that's the fair thing to do with the two businesses that are established.
But I will tell you, if the decision by the BZA is not favorable to one side or the other, it is the final arbiter, other than circuit court, I guess is where relief for appeal goes to. So it takes it out of the council's hands to make any decisions.
Those folks would be wise and may withdraw those applications. Couldn't they withdraw those applications? If council were to make a decision tonight to rescind what it did in December and let everybody play games, wouldn't those firms be wise to withdraw because they could have, instead of having their request denied?
It seemed to me that they may also get a decision unfavorable at Board of
Correct.
Zoning Appeals for them. So if council's giving them the ability to withdraw it or make an agreement with Tessie to determine whether or not to move forward, but
Mr. Morgan's got a motion on the floor, but I'm going to ask, do you want to go forward with the motion? I think we do first need to address the action taken in December. Do you wish to uphold it? You don't need a motion to uphold it. But if you're going to rescind the enforcement action in December, someone in the prevailing side, which is any of the 7 of y'all, needs to make that motion. That is a Robert's Rules of Order.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes,
So the business that was rejected at the medical center.
correct.
If y'all let everybody keep doing the game, so can they go in
They
and
should
put
be
games?
allowed to start, yeah.
It
But if
depends,
y'all, but
well,
if y'all
because
say
we
that the
don't-
gamings can stay, then can they go in and put
We
games?
don't have a threshold in our zoning.
it
That's
depends
why
on
I
what kind
said
of motion is made and passed tonight.
We don't have a threshold, whether it's one, and obviously down there, he would have a whole shop full of them, is what it sounded like to me. So whether it's one, again, whether it's 1 or 50, to me, once we say.
I see hands.
allow
Hold
them,
on.
Then it's open. Anybody can do it, yes.
I want to make sure, we have a motion on the floor, but I want to, Madam Attorney, am I in order? I believe that this council is going to waive or relax. It has to rescind what was done in December. That's just basic
Yes.
procedure.
That would be my opinion.
All right, does anyone wish to make a motion to rescind? Would you mind briefly withdrawing your motion? Just,
I withdraw my motion.
okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to rescind the enforcement action that was approved in December? Because if no motion is made, you're on record as saying you're enforcing the zoning ordinance. Am I right, Madam Attorney? I'm winging it here tonight.
Yes, that's correct, unless there's some other motion.
Now, Mr. Morgan, your motion was, now, is there a possible motion could be made that doesn't require us to rescind? All right, Mr. Morgan, restate your motion if you want to make a new motion.
I would like the motion to allow them to proceed until we find out in 3 months what the decision is gonna be.
Just Mitchell's only, or everyone that's,
I think it was, well, this is the problem. You know, you got establishments that have already taken them out, so they've missed out up until now. And they currently have ones going.
I don't have them.
They're gone?
I comply because that's what I do.
Right.
Right.
I comply
My clients have taken theirs out too.
Okay,
because that was the right thing to do because that's what you asked me to do.
right, and we appreciate that.
It's still not right.
Right.
And the stay would only account to the 8 people who have filed the appeal.
Right.
She still wouldn't be able to have them back.
It's not right.
So,
All of that is not right.
I got an idea for a motion. I can't make a motion. Why don't you make a motion? Why don't you move to rescind that which was done in December and allow everyone that's had a gaming machine to resume activity? That's what the spirit I'm hearing is. Am I right? That's the spirit I'm hearing.
Everyone that had one previously,
Yeah.
not the ones who
Right.
wanted to
Do you
have.
set a limit? on
Well,
the
how do you
numbers?
find out? So you're gonna have everyone in the world tomorrow will have had one.
Do you
That's the
set a
problem.
limit? Do they have 2? Do they have 8? I mean,
I really don't think we can. I really don't think we can do this tonight. To be fair to people,
Okay.
we're
because-
changing zoning, period.
I don't.
It has to be
To
public.
be fair to everybody, we cannot sit up here and make a decision.
Well, he's got a motion.
Well,
I mean,
we
he
get
got-
into a habit of where we're pushing stuff off every meeting.
Correct.
And that, all it
But this
does
is
is
ser- but
fester
this is
like a
serious,
bull until it explodes. I think until a final decision is made, why not let them go another 3 months? And then once that decision is made, and
If we do that, we need to compensate those two businesses and give them their money back for the money that.
They pay the
came-
advertising costs.
They came towards this, to the Board of Zoning plus this.
Yeah.
It's fairness. I mean, what?
Alright.
Did
All
I say?
right, hold on.
Times the town has taken money from me and I have not bitched and complained about it. We're not
Hold on.
beside parking lot, nobody fixed it.
I saw a hand from Miss Beverly Ames.
Okay, I have one question.
Why are we here?
If we are talking about waiting until the appeal, why can't we just limit it to those who have already been doing it, who have removed their equipment, bring it back in, let them continue till the appeal has been made, and not allow anyone else to bring it in?
That sounds great. There's one problem. We don't have a record right now of who has been under the radar. We
You said DeGlotto's to.
we do know that. Yes, sir.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
All right.
Yeah, whoever got the
I would also
letter.
like to point out that those two gaming rooms have about 60 games. All the machines that y'all took out altogether might equal 15.
Understood.
Between
Understood.
all 8 locations.
Understood. We're trying to be fair and get this right, and we do. I know the Mitchells are left in frustration. We appreciate each and every business in this town. I promise you, we do.
We're still changing.
Let me hear from Councilwoman Jones.
My concern with Mitchell's, I mean, they went through the red tape to make sure they was doing everything accurate. And like she said, she went to the Commonwealth 3 different times and said she could do it. So I don't think it's fair for them to have, she did everything she was supposed to do.
and she went through 2 officers on the state
So,
level.
so my thing is the ones who had them, let them bring them back, but I don't agree with anyone else opening.
Coming new.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I don't, and then the 2 business who was trying to apply, they was not in business, but the other ones, the other 8 or how many, I think it's fair for them to.
I don't think any of us, when we voted on that place out there at Walmart, I don't think any of us anticipated this.
No idea.
I didn't have any idea those machines were gonna just fly this way across town.
And Ms. Jones makes a good point. The establishment that was denied at the old medical center building was going to be strictly a gaming center, whereas the people we've heard from tonight so far have been, it's been auxiliary or a portion of the business. We have not heard from the people. I see some MVP game room. Marcus Edwards, you've been very patient tonight. We have not heard from you. I see you have some staff there. What are your thoughts?
No, I'm by myself. But I just think that Ms. Mitchell had permits for alcohol. She had a permit for the bull table, the dance hall. She had all these permits, but she didn't have the one for the computer-based games. They mentioned it had only been in there for 6 to 8 months or whatever. The zoning law's been there for a year and a half.
Correct. That's correct.
Paraphrasing, but that's all.
Right. And just for everybody in the audience, when Mr. Nash spoke of reimbursing, the way things work in the zoning for the town, if you seek to change, if you take it upon yourself to seek an amendment to the zoning ordinance, get a permit, we don't make the taxpayers of Blackstone pay for that business going through that process. They pay for the advertising costs and the permit fee, don't they?
We try to cover it, but we ask for $250.
Yeah,
That's the permit fee,
it's
and
not pocket
advertising may
change.
be the same.
It's, right. Mr. Mitchell had a motion on the floor regarding the Mitchell's establishment and the ones that had the machines. You stand by that motion?
I do.
All right, is there a second to Mr. Morgan's motion to do nothing until the General Assembly adjourns, but meanwhile, those who receive letters would be allowed to bring their machines back?
And I say that because they didn't just secretly put these things, they went through steps they thought they were proper, went through 2 state offices.
Right. I wish
and
someone
3
had
different
talked,
times.
someone they talked to should have thought to tell them, if you're in a town, there are town zoning ordinances, but that's, that's, okay. Is Mr. Morgan, yes.
Sorry.
Let me see if we get a second to the motion. Is there a second to Mr. Morgan's motion?
Second.
Ms. Jones, a second. Madam Attorney.
If I may request in addition to that motion, that the motion also be added that I have the authority to negotiate with the pending Board of Zoning Appeals to get an agreement that the BZA can act past that 90 days since we are, if.
Is that an agreement with the applicant's attorney?
Correct.
Not the BZA, but with the applicant's attorney?
Yes, with the applicant.
Are you so willing to move that?
Yes.
He's willing to that motion?
So moved.
You willing to second that motion? Motion's been made and second. Who votes first tonight? Is it Ms. Jones's turn tonight?
Ms. Hasbrook.
So Ms. Hasbrook, going right to, does any other concerns or questions? We've mashed it out, folks. Yeah, our meetings take a long time. We got a lot of issues. Go, Mr. Nash.
By allowing this, we are changing our ordinance currently without public input.
You're having a cooling off. You're relaxing.
Is that how we?
It's how we've done a lot.
Well, it's like this. Bring your business to Blackstone. Do business in Blackstone. You're not the only business in Blackstone, okay?
Agree.
So you got business owners that went through steps that they thought were correct through 2 state offices. Now, granted, I think somebody should have notified us,
Correct.
other than the state police. But given the fact that they did go through all of this trouble, there's not been one complaint that I'm aware of any of these gaming systems.
No, I've heard none.
So you have 3 months to relax something just until we find out exactly what's going on. So I'm siding with the business owner on this.
And not only that, I mean, they're located here in town, so they're bringing, customers in the area. Like
Again,
with
I
Mitchell's,
support businesses 100%, but it is not following zoning ordinance, period.
Both of y'all are absolutely, but
Sorry, I appreciate
all 3 of you are exactly right. Exactly right.
And I understand what you're saying, but with the Mitchells, what they went through, then somebody should have told them the correct way.
But we
I don't
didn't
think
know.
it's fair.
But Mr. Edwards, to his credit, as well as Ryan Short, I never knew anything about this till Ryan Short called me one day, and he called Philip. So there are people who did go through the right, and no disrespect to the Mitchells, but there are people that did go through the right process. Mr. Nash is worried about the fairness.
I would be all for if we advertised for public hearing tonight to amend it. Yes, I'd be all for it. But
But you gotta realize, we're not afforded the opportunity to apply. So you're talking 2 different things.
until we amend our ordinance,
I mean, you got
no.
to pay $250. I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Everybody else
I'll
did.
bring you a check tomorrow.
The guy at the medical center tried to change it from general business.
Correct.
But he didn't get it, so he lost his $250. He didn't get it back.
Right.
It's our zoning. I mean, it's not that I want to down any business. It's just that the ordinances are put in place and put out for public hearing so that our citizens can speak about what they want in our community.
What I can't understand is how did the gaming get on par with pornography?
Because that's allowed in that same district with
Now,
the.
well, who determined?
A long time ago, who knows?
That's what I'm getting at.
2006.
Who decided that these two are on par?
Tattoo parlors and several other things, yes.
Who came up with that?
And that was 15 years ago.
Right.
How's a full-blown game room versus a gas station with 3 machines?
We know the difference. It's a big difference, but we have a motion and second on the floor. It's been discussed, and we appreciate everybody's input. And pretty much everybody tonight who spoke told the truth and spoke correct. It's just it's a policy decision of this council. Is there any other discussion before we vote?
Call for the question.
We're going to have a roll call vote starting with Ms. Hasbrook on Mr. Morgan's motion to do as he stated.
Aye.
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 You may vote.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
All right.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1 with 1 abstention. And if we could also follow up to those establishments that got letters to let them know tomorrow what council did decide. And
I'd make a motion that we advertise for public hearing to amend the ordinance as it currently is. So this will be correct.
what would that amendment include? Give me a brief description for them to.
The amendment needs to be to authorize gaming devices wherever, whatever.
In the general GB district.
Limiting to, I don't know, 1, 2 machines. It needs to have a limit if you're gonna do that.
Staff can work on the language.
Yes.
Yeah, my recommendation would be if we're going to do that, it would be, allowing gaming devices with a conditional use permit, and then
Correct.
that way it would set all the regulations.
Okay.
But would that involve the shopping center out here?
The shopping.
They're already allowed there.
They're already
They're allowed there.
But I'm saying that if we talking about cutting back machines, now, you're gonna cut, okay, we're gonna say people in town can only have 2 machines.
He'd be grandfathered. Those places out there would be grandfathered.
Oh, okay.
They're grandfathered.
And it would depend on which specific districts we're talking about. If we're just talking about, this part of town versus where they are currently,
And-
it could be different.
And let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, when you say GB, you also got a HBD, Historic Business District. You want them in the HBD as well. So Mr. Nash's motion is to amend the zoning ordinance to allow computer-based gaming in the GB district. And
Not to exceed-
continue
Not
the
to
SB.
exceed 2 units.
We'll create a second definition. Right now, we have computer-based gaming establishments, and we'll create a second definition, amend the ordinance, just in the same exact process as we did for the SB district, and it'll have a different definition because it'll have the number of
Trying to
games.
make it legal for those businesses that already do it. Might as well amend it to make it legal.
No more than two, that's what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that's in the GB district. Let me see if I get a second on the floor. I promise you, I'll let everybody speak. Let me see if there's a second to the motion. Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Repeat his motion again.
His motion is in search of fairness, he is seeking to amend the zoning ordinance to allow computer-based gaming in the general business district, not the historic business district, with a maximum of 2 machines per establishment. Mr. Colonel Tom has seconded the motion. Chris Page.
I was just gonna list, obviously, you know, we all gonna debate sometimes, we still love you guys, but I just wanted you to know what locations had how many machines. Because 2 is kind of like a lower number. Mitchell's had 2, several of the gas stations had 2, the race had 4, and then one gas station had 3. And I'm thinking, maybe we could split the difference, maybe make 4, 3, maybe some 2 is a little low.
Do you stand by it?
I stand by it just because I don't want
two
to, once you get over a certain amount, I don't want to get into that gray line. So I'm just trying to make something legal.
And the state may make it all moot anyway, come July 1st.
It will, something's gonna change.
I just didn't want them to have 4 machines and only be able to put 2 back in, that's all.
Motion's been made and seconded. I see someone, yes, ma'am.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to make a motion to amend it for now,
It's gonna be a month process.
okay, so.
Yeah, we have to advertise for 2 weeks and.
It'll probably take almost 90 days.
Yeah.
Let's try a joint, let's save some money and try to have this is the issue where I think we can have a joint hearing with the planning commission in the interest of timetable. Usually you have to have a separate hearing and, 2 hearings, whatever. I see Jay Wilmot, yes, sir.
Mayor, I just saw Mr. ViewMac here this evening. I don't know what zone the ViewMac facility is in, but surely they're gonna want more than 2 machines.
GB, they're gonna be general business.
So, okay.
Great point, Mr. Wilmot. That's a great point.
But his proffers restrict what he can do, and if we create a separate identifiable definition for these things, he would have to apply to amend his permit to allow.
Okay.
Those proffers are 6 specific activities that he can do.
We have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded to amend the zone ordinance. Yes, Mr. Marcus Edwards.
Security at these gas stations, like I was recommended by the town to offer that I would have security on Friday and Saturday nights, and then when I spoke with the chief of police, we went over security protocols and those kind of things. Are these establishments gonna have the same security requirements or suggestions?
I don't think so.
The zoning ordinance was the fairness issue, that's.
Right.
I remind council that those requirements were voluntarily proffered conditions. They were not imposed by town council.
But he was replicating that which Ryan Short had done. That's what Mr. Edwards was trying to get in the good graces. And he went through all the proper steps. I'm going to recognize our guest attorney, and then we're going to have a vote.
First and foremost, I want to praise you all for having this conversation. I think that a lot of folks are talking around issues and y'all are talking about.
We get into it here, man.
No, it's great. I mean, it really is. And I appreciate your time, your thoughtfulness, your intellectual energy, your emotional energy. I really appreciate it, as well as the folks who came out tonight. 2 quick points. One, I applaud you all for seeking to amend the zoning ordinance, provided that you're going to do one very important thing, and that is please set clear and easy to interpret rules of the game. Because I think what you've heard from a number of folks tonight is that businesses in this town want to follow the rules. They want to do things the right way. I know my clients do. And as long as we know what the rules are and follow them, I think that's the best outcome we can have from this whole process. Secondly, I think it's great that you're going to have this conversation. I know that it's going to be a process, and I think that the town will, at the end of the General Assembly session, still have authority to regulate and everything. But I do think that there's going to be a lot more regulation of this industry. You may see some state-imposed limitations on number of games and at certain establishments. I think you will also see that there are other localities where they say you can have 1 or 2 by right in certain districts, and over that number you have conditions
Permit, right.
or what have you. But also, when it comes to conditional use permits, y'all have certain authority to set certain conditions. And, you know, you have that authority. All that the business owners and my clients can do is do their best to meet those conditions. If they can't, they can't. But I think the bottom line is, I hope everyone here attending tonight knows, y'all are doing a marvelous job of really talking through things and making some tough decisions. So I applaud you for that. I thank you. I thank you for your hospitality. Y'all have been great.
Absolutely, we appreciate you coming here. We have to introduce you to the Army before you leave. It's a 19-year saga. We have a motion to made and duly seconded by Mr. Nash to recommend, advertise for hearing, a joint hearing, to amend the zoning ordinance to allow computer-based gaming in the general business district, not the historic business district, with a limit of 2 per establishment. Who seconded that motion? Colonel Tom seconded. I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0. Moving on with our agenda, we're still in visitors, and I know we have some visitors here on other issues. Anyone else here tonight to address council? I know there were some folks that were going to talk maybe about the school buildings. I'd heard that. Maybe I was wrong. This is your chance to address council if you're from the audience. There'll be a second opportunity later. Do y'all care to, Mr. Wilmot, Randy Fristow? These are 2 gentlemen from Oak Street. Thank you for coming. Drive safely.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mayor?
Good to see you. Thank you for your patience.
My name's Jay Wilmot. I'm a resident of Oak Street. My wife and I own a home there. And first off, we're glad to hear a discussion about the 2 buildings that have sat there for Lord knows how many years, boarded up. And I think the biggest thing for me is the lost opportunity to use those buildings for a better purpose. And we're going to probably demolish them, is what I'm hearing. I visited Covington, Virginia, a few weeks ago, and had an opportunity to see that they had converted one of their old schools into a business incubator, which I thought was a good reuse of the facility. And it's yet to pay any big dividends, but it's a start. This is my neighbor, Randy Fristow.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. You know, we've got, I wouldn't say they're perfectly good buildings, but they're buildings. They're usable buildings. It costs a lot of money to tear them down and remove them. It costs a lot of money to restore them and keep them and put them into use. I think that before putting the cart before the horse and just jumping to the gun to demolish them, maybe we could find better ways to utilize that money. You know, it seems strange to me that we have hundreds of thousands of dollars to tear down buildings and remove debris and just leave a blank slate, but we don't have money to finish a historic project like the Armory. You know, why can't we finish one project before starting another?
It is ironic that we're going down that path, and there's a lot of talk about zoning this evening, and that is a county property currently that will have to be rezoned in some fashion, and I'd like to suggest that that really should be a neighborhood. It should be zoned as a neighborhood for residences, rather than a sports complex that I don't see a need, and I think that need really needs to be firmly established if it's to be redeveloped into something else than residences. I think there needs to be a study on the impact on the traffic, on the litter, on the lights, on the noise, and just in general, the impact on the community, because we live there. Those are our homes. And I want to know how our property values and our taxes, and not only our taxes, but taxes of other people in the community, if we choose to go down this path. And I'm not sure that's the best spot. If there really is a need for a facility, maybe that ought to be out by the high school, closer to where there's a greater mass of kids.
We met at committee, Ms. Hasbrook's committee, and we didn't come to a conclusion. We said, look, this involves too much money currently, so I think you're going to see a stalemate for a little bit, because we got to figure out, it was $150,000 for demolish. It was, and by signing this document with the county, you're also committing to building the fields, which is with lights. We don't even have a price for that, $100,000 at least. Also doing water sewer taps. So we're looking at $250,000. We're not, no, you're not going to see it happen right now.
And if you leave it like it is with the county, 20 years from now, those buildings are going to be sitting right there where they are, even more dilapidated than what they are now.
And I got a question. Okay, I was the person that went up there and requested for those school buildings to be torn down. The idea of the whole thing was to get the Gators a ball field. You understand? We sat here in this town council hall and we talked about recreation for the kids. That was the whole idea. It wasn't to stop no other project whatsoever or nothing like that. I want to clarify that because I've been hearing that y'all working on the school building, now you can build a community center. That was not even in the picture. The picture was to build the Gators a football field. They're the ones that make Nottoway County High School look good. So why shouldn't they have a nice place to play on?
No
They're
question.
your kids, your grandkids and all that. That's all that was about.
No question. Just not in my backyard.
Well, just
Where do you live?
Then they right down the street from the.
What I like to hear
school
though
street.
is the fact that there are citizens now, for years we've been talking about this building. Now, we need your voices heard at the county officials. So that way we don't have to bear it on the taxpayer. No, those buildings, we had a developer
Good idea.
want to put 6, 8 apartments in the 2-story one and then do a community center in the terrazzo for the single-story part of the building. But the county said, no, we don't want that building to be used for anything.
They were afraid that maybe among the residents might be a sex offender.
So we need your voices heard at the county level.
Understood.
Right. And just for everyone in the audience, we're on record right now with the school board of agreeing simply with no timetable to demolish the buildings and possibly put a football field there. But again, I've said, as has Shelley Hinton on the school board, that before this council does anything, we owe it to the residents in the area to hear from them. You're two of several in that area.
There's no document signed committing us to anything over there currently.
That's correct.
There is a signed document from the school.
Not from us, not on our end.
Right.
You got 2 signatures.
I would add a couple things. One, I think there's an expectation that the buildings come down, that the football field is going up. I think that's part of the agreement. I do have a copy of a signed agreement from the county with certain dictates. I will tell you, the 2-story building structurally is not terrible. It's completely slam full of asbestos and is a complete hazard for anybody. And there's kids constantly getting in it. Our asbestos testing's been completed and it's not a good situation.
But we had a developer that wanted to put apartments in there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last thing is the 2-story building has gotten so decayed, or the 1-story building, that it's not even safe for the asbestos inspectors to get on the roof anymore because it is collapsed in several spots. So it looks okay from the 4 walls outside, but if you take a drone and look down in there, I think she's pretty well done. And but the 2-story building has some potential, but it is not a healthy place for anybody to go into.
I would
Obviously, the
greatly
mold things are a
appreciate
problem.
your
The asbestos is-
help at the county level.
Yeah.
Because $250,000 is a whole lot of money for this small town to absorb, just to tear down a
Yeah,
building.
exactly. It's a lot of money to spend just to accomplish nothing.
It's not our building.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Sadly,
thing.
we can't, literally, we've been messing with this for 5 years.
I think you're gonna,
And the school system, the then school board was very gracious, but they said thanks, but no thanks to repurposing. Okay?
Right.
So we've made another proposal. Let us do something because we're putting in, $250 may be a lot, but we've put in $1 million over there in recreation. Between the baseball field, the project we're working on right now, the street improvements, the antique lights that are going over there, the basketball courts, all those things. We're gonna be pushing $1 million.
Don't forget the volleyball court.
Yeah, and that's all well and good, but what's the big picture future for that whole quadrant? Because a massive sports complex with a football field and the baseball fields and the volleyball court and everything that has all of the nighttime lighting and the Friday night and the Saturday night activities and all the
lighting-
traffic, and how does that affect us
Well, we
as?
have a master plan for the property that was designed many years ago when, I guess, maybe even before Jay, you moved.
2007.
Randy moved to town. There is a master plan, and it's got
Walking trails?
option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. But this is the farthest we've ever been along to get that mess cleaned up. The county provided me a letter, and I think they're reluctant to agree to taking the material from the landfill without cost. And
That's gonna be a deal killer.
so that already increases the value.
Yeah, that's gonna be a deal killer.
So, if you want them cleaned up, then we're happy to do it.
I mean,
The
my-
county's even refused to send an inspector to go look at them because we don't inspect our own buildings.
But I do think one thing we can all agree on is that when residents are concerned about what's going on in their neck of the woods, no matter where it is, I think this council will give a lot of deference to, if we're gonna put something in someone's backyard, there needs to be neighborhood consensus, in my opinion.
To tear them down?
No.
Oh,
I
no,
don't
to build
think the
back.
tear down is
To build
the
it up.
issue.
impact.
But also, in order for us to tear it down, we have made the only way the school board would agree for us to tear it down is by offering a field. And that was, I mean, that's good bargaining chip.
Well, the main thing was the sewer taps, because we have some supervisors that think that if the school burns down tomorrow, they're gonna throw classrooms in there. And so we've tried to allay those concerns by agreeing to have taps in place for the, because we all know what happens, you bring in mobile trailers. God forbid if there's a tragedy or earthquake or whatever, like some Virginia localities have been doing. But we thank you for coming to the council. Any other questions of the gentleman? I did see Mr. Alan Queen had a hand raised.
Right, so, I don't know how far along you are in the process, but has the county talked about, since the Gators is for the whole county, if they put a field there, will the county be putting any money towards that field?
No.
Nope.
Not at this time. Now, Mr. Queen, there are some people that think that the county, for example, might be able to be talked to and put in some money for recreation down in Blackstone. I appreciate that opinion. I will tell you right now, the county mindset has always been, if we do something for one of the towns, oh my gosh, we gotta do something for the other two towns. I wouldn't count that money.
It's not for the town, it's for the county.
You and I know that. You and I know that. They have a different philosophy.
Just like our fire department is for the county.
And for these two guys that live in that neighborhood, Gators football games, unless something changes, are played at like 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock. So it's not like it's night games where the lights
The
are.
practices will be at night.
Well, the practices will be from 6 to 8 before school. No, 7 to 9 before school, 6 to 8 after school.
Starts, right.
And we can always go to the league and play day games. That's not an issue. So the lighting part, as far as the Gators go, would not be an issue.
We do need to move on, as members of council have let me know. Anyone else from visitors tonight? Because our fire chief has been sitting here for 2 hours. Anyone else from the public? You have a second chance later on. Yes, ma'am. I didn't get your name earlier. I'm sorry.
My name's BJ Henley, and
Yes.
I live, just most recently purchased a home on Hodges.
Would you mind coming here just for the, so the clerk can get your comments? You're BJ Henley? Okay.
This is on the agenda, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. We'll knock it off the agenda then. That's great.
My name's BJ Henley. My husband and I purchased 38 acres on Lake Lee and have had several years of trying to get power, and we're landlocked, don't have a straight road in. So I have several health conditions. And so we decided to, now that we're retired, buy a small home here in town, and so that we would have 911 access and capabilities to get help and power and water quickly. So we recently purchased this home probably about 3 weeks ago or so, and when we did purchase it, it was from a very lovely family that has been here coming for over 10, 20 years, the Kennedys.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Kennedy is very terminally ill, and they had to sell. So, lovely couple, we went through the process fairly quickly because we knew she needed to leave. We are unable to use the water at all as a well septic. This is the cleanest it gets after 3 filterings.
That's what came out of your tap?
Yes.
That's well water though.
Yeah, it's
not
well.
Okay.
It's well.
Well,
Okay.
Lord have mercy.
Let me-
Whew, thanks.
That's why she's here.
But we had it tested because it's well septic. They told us when we purchased it that they said, oh, we've talked to the town before. There's a part out by the street that water through, came from like Clays or somewhere, that it should be relatively easy. We'll leave you $1,000 at closing, so that if there are any problems with having, because they had air purifiers and all this stuff that they've been trying to get through their process. Well, I think the septic is leaking into the well. We had the water tested. It's got E. coli in it. We can't take a shower. We can't wash dishes.
You want town water and sewer?
Yes, sir.
All right, what-
And I'm sorry, it's.
That's okay.
The thought of it taking a really long time is scary, so,
Well, might there be emergency funds available to help us, or could we do it? And we're going to get some customers out of this.
Well, we're getting ready to do the Lunenburg Avenue water line for the exact same, but those folks are actually connected to the town. Hodges Street is an anomaly. In 1995, when I was a young man and I had much darker hair, we actually installed sewer lines on Hodges Street. That was installed around where Goodwill is, Lunenburg Avenue extended, all the way back 10th Street, Westwood Road Drive. We just paid that bond off in 2014, for those of you that may or may not remember. So in 1995, we installed sewer, but we never installed water. And that was a part of the annexed area. It's no secret, and the folks did tell you the truth. They've come and seen me and talked to me about it, but we really haven't been impressed until now. I do think we have an obligation to install a water line. I think it's something we need to do. I don't know what your time frame is, but I would like, and it was on the agenda tonight, to get authorization, begin the process of design and coming up with cost estimates and financing and all of the above things.
I make a
that
motion,
would
we give him,
be required to do.
I make a motion to start that immediately.
Thank you so much.
Motion been made by Mr. Morgan, second by Ms. Jones. Any further discussion to get the
We
ball
have
rolling?
water at the corner up there, right?
There's water in front of your
So we just need to tap from there up the street, correct?
No, because you got multiple houses. I think you need to run a 6-inch or an 8-inch water line all the way down through there and possibly even wrap it around.
From where?
tie in.
How far, I'm asking how far we need to connect to a main line. Where's the
I would
main?
connect at Main Street in front of Clay's,
Uh-huh.
and I would run it down straight to Pickett Street. And so we don't create a dead-end line, I would make a right-hand turn down Pickett and tie it into the wall.
Yeah, because if you get a dead end line, you may end up having water that, not a whole lot better than that.
I would loop it back to Walmart.
All right. That's, everybody understands that? I'd entertain a motion, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
What's, just so she can have some sense of time frame. What is our time frame on this? The mayor even mentioned emergency pipe. Do we have to go through, can we not piggyback on the new water line that's going on Lunenburg Avenue?
That's why I mentioned it, Lunenburg. Maybe we can get the linear feet amounts and see if we can type it on with the same contractor and add it as a change order.
I mean, she should know.
I think it's legal to do that, we just gotta make sure the mechanisms are in
All right.
place so it's fair.
So answer the question then, what's our time frame on that project? We've already bid that.
It's gonna be advertised for bids tomorrow's paper, or Wednesday's
It's already
paper.
out to bid.
So 2 weeks, a month?
30 days to get bids back, 30 days to get documentation, performance bonds, and council permission. So you're probably looking 60 days before you have a signed notice to proceed, and then the contractor will be given 90, 120 days to get the construction done.
Nothing you can do to speed that up? Is there anything you can do to speed that up? Is it?
Do the best I can. I'll get it in there just as quick as I can. But I gotta get a
Are y'all
contractor
getting
ready.
water from somewhere currently?
We have rainwater that we filter at the lake, and then we take buckets and bring that to the house, and that's what we're currently.
Things we
doing.
take for granted, the
How
things we
much
take
do
for
you use
granted.
daily?
We use bottled water to wash our hands, and we use those buckets to do the dishes, and then we go back to the lake again and just bathe with the rainwater.
Yeah, we're gonna expedite as fast as we can,
We've
but
got extremely big wells at the garden center, I mean, but I don't know if that, and I've never seen the water look like that, so I mean, if you need to.
It's an
come see us and
emergency.
get
If
some
something needed to be
5 gallon
done, there could be a lateral installed pretty darn quick. Andre can go in there and trench. Dan Martin, the guys have that trencher. And we can lay a temporary, if Clays will let us do it on their side of the road or whatever. And because there's several others, say several, 2 other houses that are owned by Larry Williamson that already go back out to Main Street. It's separate
okay.
services. So
Think y'all be willing to do that, Eric?
In your area.
Think y'all be willing to do that?
Having that issue. Or are
We have a
I
house
know,
back there
we
too.
do
that
have,
we're-
we do have a lady
Jenna
that
would
does
take for
work
this.
here for the city that's right behind Clay's.
She
And
rents from
has-
my parents.
Yes,
Correct.
and she has a well, and she does not have the same problem, because we talked to her about it when we went to get our power turned on. But now, I wouldn't know for the next 2 houses, because they're in really poor condition and not very,
They're hooked on the town water there.
Oh, okay.
So they're
if you're
fine.
agreeable, I can lay a lateral, a 3/4 inch lateral. It'd be a temporary job, but
The
it'd
council
be,
agree by common consent to that due to the situation we've heard tonight?
Yes.
And this lady's health?
with the intention that we'll lay an appropriate size line with fire protection on the end of it, no less than 6 inches, and that will take some of the pressure off time. We'll see how quickly Andre can get that in there, and we can use town staff.
Meantime, come get the bucket, I mean, it's right across the street from you, so.
Thank you.
We thank you for coming. We're sorry for what you've had to go through, but
Thank you.
I hate to sound like a government bureaucrat, but help is on the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else tonight? I mean, my goodness, folks, we covered it all here. We're glad to. Where's our fire chief?
Thank you all.
Thank you,
All right, thank you.
Madam Attorney. Chief, looks like he's been, you have not been hanging out in Blackstone to have that sun on your face.
Yes, it was nice. Had to come back. Informational wise, we submitted for a grant for $7,000 for some airbags to replace our current bags that we have. Our bags are past their life expectancy, so we're really hoping to get some grants.
Okay.
They still have not opened up the AFG. Have no idea why. This is usually opened in August, September,
Yeah.
but the government's there to help us. We did not get the Dominion Energy grant. Our awards are listed. Our old SCBA, we have not been able to get rid of. We've attempted to sell them. We have sales reps going around saying, does anybody need any? They found a company in Southampton County that does not have any air packs. And we're wondering if we could surplus ours and just donate them to this company so they have something, but of course we'd want something in writing releasing us from any liability, of course.
Very neighbor, even though it's not close by, but I think I make a motion that we surplus the old SCBA equipment and donate to Sedley Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay. Mr. Nash's motion, is there a second? Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Should I get Tessie, should she write something us up, releasing us? Would that
Probably that'd be a good idea.
Appropriate avenue. Our tanker's due back tomorrow. It was involved in a little incident with a mutual aid fire department company that backed into it. So it had to get some repairs done.
Paid for by their insurance.
Paid for by their insurance.
Was the agency in the county?
It is.
All right. We got one up on them now. I gotta ask Crew of Burkeville, let's just get it out.
Our closest neighbor.
Here we go. Bubba, go ahead.
Also, our monthly incident report for the month of December is up, and that indicates our yearly runs throughout the whole year of 2019, which totaled, I believe it was right around 400 calls or calls for service, and we spent over 3,600 man-hours volunteer time contributing to the county. So if you put an hourly rate on that, it's pretty well up there.
True.
So,
Any questions of the chief? Well, we do appreciate your patience tonight. We had a great time at the banquet. We haven't seen you since the banquet. All right, thank you, chief.
all right, thank you.
We have payment of bills. You have your first batch, checks not yet approved. They total $1,053,705.75. I'm guessing that's because 2 months of FEMA.
East
Well,
End
we had two
construction.
construction,
That's right.
invoices, for East End, 197,396, that it was reimbursable, and the second one in there for 287,683, so.
Okay.
That's the predominance of the increase.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I got a question. Okay, over here where it says, I just want to know, because never seen it before. Okay, you got all this Christmas lights, Christmas decor, and all this, and it came to about $5,000. What is that?
Just for the seatbelt.
He's asking under Walmart Community, but that's a credit card, correct? So
That's a
that,
credit card.
it's a lot of different things, but it just it shows Xmas decorations.
Yeah, and it may be cleaning supplies for the police department included on there, but that's our credit card bill for the month. And I think when she just does the description, she's only got so much room to put a definition. But there were a lot of Christmas ornaments, Christmas lights, things that were purchased for CPAR.
And paint, a lot of that was paint for the Boy Scouts who rebuilt those houses, wasn't it?
It may very well be, I don't know, I think we got most of it at Bevel's, and so I don't know if there was a huge amount of supply.
Okay.
But I think most of it came.
All right, do we have a motion to approve payment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I'll need a roll call vote because they exceed 10,000, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye.
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 Those bills are approved 7-0, and your next batch,
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Mr. Nash moved.
Okay. And who seconded it?
Which one of y'all seconded?
Ms. Thompson.
It was Ms. Thompson. And your second batch, they're broken down by category, they total $270,515.48.
I move to approve these.
Mr. Nash has moved, Mr. Miller has seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Under Street Department, Philip, I see $2,035 for land agreements to Norfolk Southern. That's this parking lot,
That's
correct?
part of paying the annual lease for the
Used to be what until we changed the lease?
half, $1,400? $1,400.
Just check.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll have a roll call vote, starting with Mrs. Hasbrook.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. You have under appropriations, 2 items that the town manager wants to bring to our attention where we exceeded expectations as far as expenses, is that correct?
Yes.
Electric
The first
fund?
of which is in the electric fund. That's really an auditing measure. We showed that as an expenditure, but they're asking for it to be shown as a transfer from the electric fund to the general fund. This is a request by the auditors on the first, and that's a $50,000 contribution that we annually make for weather condition.
All right.
The second of which is, and Jennifer, as capable certainly or more than I to explain these, but Schwartz Tavern, the painting, we put $7,500 in the budget, and I think it exceeded.
So painting Schwartz Tavern cost about it cost $15,000, but they did a really good job. They scraped it and did two coats. It looks better than.
That was including the Sea Park gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
No, your second line item, the Sea Park
That's-
Christmas repairs, you exceeded the budget by $8,800, and that includes the painting. I'd had it separated, so this is exactly what you
Total of 15,000.
All right. Is there a motion to approve these two appropriations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by Ms. Hasbrook, seconded by Mr. Morgan. Any further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mrs. Hasbrook.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0. Committee reports. I would ask that we go as smoothly as possible. We first have the employment and police, and there was some very good discussion on two issues in particular came up that the town manager will brief us. Loans to employees and the chain of command. Mr.
I think for the loan of employees, it's been much publicized that the town council and town staff had made arrangements for two employees who were in financial straits to get a loan. I don't think the committee has a full recommendation, but basically a stay. Mr. Van Orbeck, don't bring us any right now. Don't make any requests and don't bring anything else. In the 9 years I've been here, we've had two requests. So I don't know if a motion is necessary, but certainly they made a recommendation, so you may want to act on that.
Council wishes to keep pondering it, make a decision tonight. What is your pleasure? I will say this now, and this is something that can be investigated. I don't want to bog us down. I did have someone approach me in Blackstone that is in the legal community that said, Billy, council can do what council wants to do, but if some employee decided not to pay back the loan or was unable to, they question because of Dillon rule and that local governments are not allowed by state code to lend money, that there may be no recourse for the town to require a payback.
Just the agreement that was signed by both employees, by the second employee, Tessie prepared it, she was confident that we could, but there's a matter of difference of opinion perhaps.
Yeah, someone's throwing a Dillon rule at me, so I just thought I'd bring it to y'all's attention. It's a policy decision as council, whatever y'all decide.
I applaud, it's not the town council, and it should be brought to us from now on, but I applaud the town staff for seeing that our employees, when they are in dire needs, these are only dire needs. This is not, I want $100 to go
buy a new car.
Party in town. This is, I'm losing my house. And I think we owe it to our employees. Now, I mean, there needs to be agreement, it needs to come before us, I think, but that's part of being us, Blackstone. I truly feel like it is. Again, it needs to be a policy written, so I think in the meantime, the stay is fine, let's not do anything, but let's write a policy that says what these stipulations could be. I mean, I don't want our employees to be homeless out on the street.
Maybe a cap, number of requests per employee, a certain time, cap on the money amount,
And have a generic form that if you do request it, this is the form you're gonna get. This isn't made specifically for Joe Blow. This is what everybody would get. So it's not showing favoritism to one particular employee or not.
It was a very good discussion, and Mr. Morgan made a great point, I thought, in response to, and Mr. Johnson had a good comment. You know, if the town is, I think we err on the side of being generous as much as possible. I know situations where personally, there's been a delay on cutting someone's lights off. There's been payment extensions made through Brittany. So I do commend the town for being, despite what you may hear about government in general these days, I think our government is a compassionate one.
Would police and employment do that, or health and ordinance? Whichever, I mean.
I think maybe that would be a good health and ordinance committee.
I just want us to,
yeah.
We're obviously seen sometimes as paying our employees less than other areas around. So you know what? I think it's owed to them.
I'll refer the matter to health and ordinance for a policy and ask that the attorney do look at the Dillon rule angle on that. Chain of command was also discussed, Mr. Town Manager.
There is no recommendation on chain of command, but I think there were some questions.
Well, I'd like to just say one thing. I thought it was a great question. The question was asked by several, what's the role of the mayor? And basically the town manager nailed it in committee. This is a weak mayor system. I run the meetings, occasionally cut ribbons. Council makes policies. The biggest thing I get to do is occasionally veto something, which is rare. and suspend an employee, which I've never done, and hope I never have to do.
You're not a weak man.
Well, but again, by charter, the position is. And so, but now I will say this, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, there was considerable discussion at committee level about when a citizen has a concern. Each of y'all have the right to handle those as you wish. If a citizen brings a concern to me, it immediately goes to him. And if it's something really big, I will notify a committee chair. A lot of times it's Christine because it involves town property. Or I may copy the ward rep if it's something that I know is a pressing issue in the ward. But I don't know if there needs to be, I think each of y'all are elected and myself to do with that which we think is best. And I don't think we can impose a chain of command on citizens. I don't think so. But
Where did that come from? I mean, what was the issue? Did somebody complain that we have no chain of command? Or why was that brought up?
I brought it up.
Did this arise from the police issue?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
That's why.
It involved the police committee.
Okay. Human Resources Committee want more time to consider about a human resources position. Correct. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then the drug testing, currently we have a policy in Blackstone where on the first strike, you're now out.
And I think the committee, we used to be 2 strikes. And then if you remember last year, Josh felt like, and I think rightfully so, that the federal funds that he was receiving mandate that his bus drivers and the employees of the bus system go to a 1-strike rule. We were an anomaly statewide in the transit business. And so as a decision, the council chose to make the entire town 1 strike. Okay. So we've had some employees that are no longer with us. And I think that there's some consideration on whether we're able to make non-CDL employees eligible for 2 strikes. I think it's a slippery slope a little bit, but we call them safety sensitive. That's the terminology. If you're doing a safety sensitive job, and there's no job more dangerous than riding the back of a garbage truck, there's no job more dangerous or potentially dangerous than someone who treats the water.
Driving a police car.
Driving a police car. So I think we've got some thoughts still to come on whether those all would become exempted from having to take drug testing.